When I think about impact, it's recognizing that you are here for a very limited period of time
Yeah.
to discover how you can be used in the lives of others for good. Check out this episode with From the Hart. John O'Leary is going to join you, and we're going to be unpacking what it looks like to be burned within an inch of your life and ultimately to recognize that God is still God, the foundation is still firm, and your best is yet to come.
Welcome to the From the Hart podcast presented by Orange Kiwi, a consulting firm that specializes in helping family and closely held businesses navigate significant transitions. I am really excited. I'm always excited for my guests, but I'm really excited to bring to you, our audience today, a gentleman that I really came on my radar recently. A guest I had last year, Stephanie Shostak, is an actress, and she's been in many movies and TV shows, and she plays John O'Leary. My guest today plays John's mom in an upcoming movie that I'm going to tell you about. We're going to talk a lot about today, but let me just touch a couple of things about John that hopefully will fascinate you and quickly get through the bio so that we can get to the conversation. John and I had a chance to chat for a few minutes here before we recorded, and I just can't wait for you to hear his voice and hear his story. John's a speaker, author, podcaster, so those are three things we have in common right there. This is one where we differ now. He's the subject of a major motion picture called Soul on Fire, which hits theaters around America on October 10th, and I'm really excited to see that. In 1987, as a curious 9-year-old boy, and you're going to hear this story too a little bit, John was burned on 100% of his body and given less than 1% chance, I believe. John, is that correct?
Is right.
Yeah, less than 1% chance of survival, which the irony now is he spends his life teaching and inspiring people how to live. And I think that's beautiful. I love the correlation between battling for your life at 9 years old and now spending the rest of your life teaching people. If anybody can teach people how to live, it's somebody who has had to battle to live. He's a 2-time best-selling author, a book called On Fire, The 7 Choices to Ignite a Radically Inspired Life, and In Awe, Rediscover Your Childlike Wonder to Unleash Inspiration, Meaning, and Joy. Love the plays on words on both of those. So the childlike wonder, you go into a garage. All of us have probably done something stupid in our lives. I loved a comment you made, John. There's more in the bio I want to touch on as we go through the conversation, but just the question that came up from, I don't know if it was Joe Buck who was interviewing you or if you just made this comment. Would you change it all? I mean, you caught on fire. You had less than 1% chance of living. You obviously have, if those that are watching, there are, you look great. Certainly, with your hands, you're losing your fingers.
You're reading that just like I wrote it. Keep going, Ed. Don't miss the next paragraph.
We don't even need to do,
You're extremely wealthy. You're very desirable.
You're very good looking. Well, I mean, I know you're good looking because I've seen your wife. So, like me, my friend, you outkicked your coverage.
Amen. That is the first true thing you've said today. So that is.
I don't know about that, but just, I mean, the life you've had since that day is a hard life, no doubt. Hard as a child, I'm sure, going back to school for the first time. Hard as an adult, going into the dating scene, everything else. But you mentioned in the video, and I'm going to stop talking and just ask a question. You've said that you wouldn't change it. You wouldn't blow out the flame, were the words I believe you used. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thank you for having me on. And
It's a joy.
you name dropped Stephanie Shostak, who is the words you and I described her with earlier, outrageously cool. She is an amazing actor, author, speaker, but she's a far better person. So I love your guest, Stephanie. She's great. She plays my mom in the film of, so fortunate in that regard. And then to answer your question, you've got to go back and even more add a little bit of color to so what are you really saying yes to? And for me, it means getting burned on, 100% of your body, but that doesn't even really begin to explain how hard that is. 87% was 3rd degree. That's dozens of surgeries and skin grafts. It's the loss of your fingers on both hands. It's a lifetime, 38 years now afterwards, of stress and struggle and being stared at still when you walk into a room. So when you potentially say yes to something, it's not just, wow, what you went through, it's what you go through.
Right.
It's the agony along the way. And it's the fact that your dad died earlier this year, Parkinson's disease, which is tragic, but also that disease is triggered by stress. So there is collateral damage in this story. in his life, in my life, in my mom's life, in my five siblings' lives. And yet there's God's hand all over this story,
Yeah.
unquestionably and undeniably. So the yes today is in no small part because we recognize those fingerprints, because we recognize the blessings of today. We recognize how the story is being used for something bigger than ourselves. You mentioned my beautiful wife. She is gorgeous. So not only do I get to wake up next to her, but I get to raise four kids with her.
Yeah.
And I get to recognize with her what really matters and serve people in the community. And so, man, we're blessed to say, yeah, we would go back and deal with the same fire because we know now, after some cataracts have been cut away, that God used and is using it.
Do you ever stop and think about what your life would look like today had that accident not happened?
Yeah, I'd be a 48-year-old shortstop for the Cardinals.
You'd still be playing for the Cardinals. I love it.
I would have elevated our team, so we would not have struggled in the 90s or the early 2000s. You know, that's the funny thing about looking back. I mean, some of us who are optimistic look back and wonder what could have been. And the pessimists almost do it the same way, but through a negative lens,
Right.
like what could have been. You know, my life today could have been something worthy
Right.
had it not been for. And what I try to do is not look back very often, other than to give thanks for the stories learned along the way, for the character forged along the way, for the friends made.
Yeah.
When you think about a man who travels around today teaching others how to truly live, those are the words you use, truly live. I mean, what a great idea. But I don't use the word I in speaking.
Mhm.
The credit is always given where it's earned and deserved, and it's to the people who showed up for me. And so those who taught me to live are like my mom and dad, my
Yeah.
five siblings, the doctors and nurses, the custodial staff, a guy I'm sure you'll talk about, Jack Buck, and the
Yeah.
hockey team, and my wife who sees beauty in the broken. So when you hear the story of a guy who teaches others to truly live, it's not an ego trip. It's it's recognizing how God used ordinary people in mighty ways to build up this one person's life who now is emptying himself back out to remind others what it looks like to build up others.
Hmm. I love that. What I hadn't thought of this question. I do have a question that I haven't gotten to, and it's going to come up. But as you're talking, John, and I forgive the marketing guy in me and the, all of that, but and I hate to use the word elevator pitch, but I'm going to use that because it's the term everybody knows. You get 60 seconds in an elevator with someone and they want to, you can't possibly summarize your story in 60 seconds, but what's that? What's the headline? What's the headline of John O'Leary's life story?
So I know you have a bunch of leaders who tune in and a bunch of family businesses who tune in as well. And I'm going to bore them back to sleep with this answer. So
I doubt
here's
it.
where I'd like to answer your question. We have had 42 clients reach out to us to date us compared to other speakers. Okay, so they get this astronaut and this astrophysicist and this mountain climber and this overcomer, and then they bring in some dude named John O'Leary.
Hmm.
And they don't give me 60 seconds in the elevator, they give me 30 minutes.
Right.
We are
30
now 40,
seconds. Yeah.
42 for 42 in booking those events. So then the real question is why? What did you share with them?
Yeah.
And here's how I sell. And it's not done intentionally, it's just the reality. I'm a trained hospital chaplain, like 3 years
Okay.
working with kids. Our job is not to evangelize kids at the bedside or their families, it's to love them. It's to sit on the bed with them, play Transformers with them, ask them what their favorite colors are, learn about who they like. You like the Dodgers, I like the Cardinals. It's to learn about them. So in 30 minutes on an elevator ride, I spend 29 minutes learning about them and their heart and their struggles and what brought them into this business and why they do these meetings in the first place and what for them success looks like. And then about 29 minutes in, the HR director's like, guys, we're running out of time.
Right.
What do you think about John? And unanimously and consistently, the answer is we love them. And the reality is they've learned nothing
Yeah.
about John and the elevator pitch because I don't have one. I guess
Yeah.
go to the website, man. I got nothing to sell you, certainly
Right.
nothing to prove to you. Like you, I'm here to love people where they are.
Yeah.
And if they want me to speak to their organization or they want to buy some books or go to a film, we can talk about that. But I'm not here to promote myself. I'm here to learn about them and help elevate their lives afterwards.
I love that. It reminds me of a quote that I just heard the other day that says we can't expect people to relate to us until we relate to them first. We can't, and using the word love, we can't expect people to love us until we love them first.
Mm.
And our pastor where we used to go to church said, love people until they ask you why. And I love
That
that
is
because
so
it's like,
good.
what, so you love me so much, you're always serving why, and it's opportunity to share your story, to share about, your blessings and your family and your God and your beliefs and so forth. So the question that I wrote down that I'm just going to throw at you right now is what is, and it's impossible to pinpoint one. When you think of that big aha that you've had since you started, maybe since you started speaking about your experiences or speaking to Girl Scout troops or going through the battles, as a child, all of the above. What are some of the ahas that you've had, things that you've learned that maybe even surprised you?
Mm. So you and I were name dropping earlier, and we won't do it again, but you have some friends that I share who are senior level guys,
Right.
very successful.
Yeah. A couple of
One
mutual
thing I've
friends.
one thing I've learned in this C-suite is how ordinary those guys are and ladies.
Mhm.
When I was younger in this business, I used to wonder how they got there. And what I've learned is usually they wonder too. Like they're as amazed as anybody else. So I'm learning along the way how when you are bold enough to just faithfully shut your eyes and step forward serving others enough that they eventually ask the question, why are you loving me? That you will do things in your life that you can't fathom doing today. So that's one thing I've learned from some of our mutual friends, just this audacity of driving forward with hope and selflessness for others.
Mm.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
Uh, One thing I'm learning is I think we imagine, you probably heard this a lot, but we think we can get way more done in a day or in a week than we possibly could. But we play small in regards to years or multi years or decades or a lifetime. And so I try to live in the moment of each day, just like surrendering to it. But I try to have pretty audacious plans for what this year could look like, what a couple years could look like, what my lifetime could look like. And so we don't think we have a small God. And so we have, I would encourage your listeners and viewers, like dream massively
Mm.
about how your life can be used to change the world. And then the micro steps to take each day to step into that reflection because you're not ready for it today. But if you keep humbly shutting your eyes and stepping, you'll become that person. And then I guess the final thing I'll say is we have been raised and now we're raising up the next generation who believe life is all about us. And yet, those of us who do the most truly in their lives and live into great satisfaction, contentment, significance, and success recognize that life ultimately is not about them. The more they empty themselves into others, not only the more they accomplish, but the more they become. So, the very thing that people who are success driven long for, they'll never find because it's about them. But if it can become about investing in those around you, your shadow as you grow will be far mightier than you could have imagined.
Yeah. That impact. Absolutely. What's your biggest hope for your children?
And just humility. And it sounds so stupid and kind of lame, but I ask four questions every night around the dinner table. We pray, we step in, we got, four kids, a couple dogs, one wife, and they know dad's coming with four questions. And the questions are, what was the best part of your day? And we
Mhm.
spin around. What was the worst part? Because I'm not a highlight reel of lemonade, man. Like life squeezes it in your eyes
Yeah.
sometimes. So what's the
Tough
low?
out there.
And then and this is really important. I learned this from a billionaire family up in the Dakotas because they raised these great kids, humble, awesome kids. So I asked this woman, I'm like, what did you do for these kids, man? You raised them right. And she said four questions. So she gave me those first two and then these two. And the final two were, what's one kind thing someone did for you today?
Mm.
Because the world's telling you that it's all bad.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it, they'll tell you all about it on social media and at the 10 o'clock news. It is all bad. So she wanted to remind them that's a lie. And the final question she asked, and now I ask, is, and what is one nice thing you did for someone today?
Yeah.
And what those two final questions would do, and she credited those questions with their humanity, is it would have them looking for good, which what you seek, you find, but it also had them seeking opportunities to be of service. And every day, man, there's an opportunity, whether you're wealthy or not, to hold the door open, to wave someone in line in front of you, to cover the meal, to give a generous tip, whatever the thing is. There's a chance today to be generous to someone else.
Mm.
So I just encourage your listeners, like seek that on the front side, and you'll get that opportunity every day. It will bless you.
And it's great because your kids know it's coming. So they wake up in the morning thinking about it and they've got in their mind now, okay, as I go through the day, I'm looking for great acts of service that I'm watching
Right?
towards me and towards others. It's fun to watch other people serve other people as well. But yeah, most importantly, what can I do? My dad has always said, your dad reminds me of my dad. I saw your story about taking your dad to the movie and him getting a chance to see Soul on Fire. I sent you a note before earlier this morning. You may not have had a chance to see it yet, but I was blessed that he was able to attend an awards banquet where I was lucky enough to receive an award. Bill was there, actually. Bill was part of it. Bill Sanderson. He was part of the people that chose me for that, ironically.
Hmm.
Um, but that relationship with your dad sounds like it's similar to the relationship that I had with my dad. And my dad always said, when you're stuck, serve. If you're in a situation, in a relationship, in a work situation, in a dilemma, I can't figure this out, whatever that is, step away from it, go serve somebody. You're going to come back and find the problem's either not there any longer or you're better equipped to address the problem. Works every time. Works like a
It does
charm.
work every time.
Yeah.
And it ought to be known as part of human nature. Unfortunately,
Right.
it's almost repulsed kind of by human nature. But again, for those who become truly significant and successful, it is their habit. They're seeking. Bill introduced me to a friend named Augie Nito.
Mm-hmm. You
Augie
mentioned that.
spent a
Yeah.
lifetime building and serving and spreading joy in the midst of chaos and agony.
Yeah.
Man with ALS,
Right.
who in one toe had more life than the vast majority of us will carry into a day when we're completely vibrant and healthy.
Yeah.
So those who truly are seeking to be of service to others become far more successful than those of us trying to make it about ourselves.
So in the spirit or in the risk of, I know you don't want to make this about yourself, and I don't either, honestly. I'm in awe of your story and what you've accomplished. What have you seen? You talked about how sometimes you walk into a room and people stare at you. You walk in to speak to kids. I know that you talked about how you threw up the first time you went in to speak, and it was a small group of kids. You've spoken in schools, at corporations across the world. What's the reaction that you get that keeps you doing this?
Mm. So it's important to recognize, like you're talking to a guy now who speaks at like stadiums sometimes.
Yeah.
And I love it, man. What a blessing. But where it began was with three Girl Scouts and vomit on my pants and
Yeah.
shoes, and yet the determination to walk inside anyway. And like that's just like what a lesson for me to learn as we do the next thing in our business, or the next thing with my wife, or the next thing with my kids, or the next thing with my dad, to in spite of fear and lack of confidence, to just trust and shut your eyes and step. So that kid 21 years ago did that, and today I'm still doing that. The question is why?
Yeah.
And it's not the money, and it's not the applause, and it's not some semblance of notoriety. I every single time I speak, whether it's in a prison or a boardroom or a stadium or Girl Scout group,
Yeah.
someone comes up after, not some, many people come up to me
Mhm.
afterwards and they say, John, it's nothing like your story, but,
Hmm.
and then they talk about the bankruptcy, or I met Augie Nito. He types in about Lou Gehrig's,
Yeah.
or then you meet a guy who's going through a bipolar diagnosis with one of his kids, or someone fighting cancer, or someone who's got a brother, who's got a sibling, who's got a neighbor, who's got a kid who got burned. And you hear these stories. And there's a quote that hung up on my old office wall, and it read from Henry Nouwen: "What is most personal and private is most sacred and universal."
Hmm.
What is most personal and private. So the very thing you're like, dude, I should never tell anybody about this,
Huh.
is in reality the very thing that is most personal, meaning to all of us,
Yeah.
universal to all of us, and sacred for all of us. So I try to expose myself vulnerably from my heart. I just share things like, oh man, it's kind of rough that he's that weak. And yet afterwards, because I remind them how strong others are and how strong God is, afterwards, people come up filled with hope as they talk about their struggle and their renewed desire to do something about it.
And that's true. That I love that because it's huge believer I am that our story is for others more than it is for ourselves. Yeah, we learn from our experiences, but we're here to share. We're here to build up other people. So let's talk about one of those people you alluded to earlier. Name drop. Here we go. Letting people know. Jack Buck. So I think of Jack Buck. I think of I grew up here in Southern California with Vin Scully. But when I think of Jack Buck, I think of the 1988 World Series. Well, I think of the 87 playoffs when Ozzie Smith hit a homer to beat my Dodgers and he's screaming, "Go crazy, folks, go crazy." And I was not the way you were, but I was going crazy because my Dodgers just lost. But in 88, when Gibson hit that home run, you got Vin Scully with his famous "She Is Gone" and Jack Buck with "I Can't Believe What I Just Saw." What a great announcer. Talk about not Jack Buck, the sportscaster, but you're in your hospital bed and you can't see. I'm quoting you from the interview that I watched. Um, and Jack Buck, this voice that you recognize from the radio and the TV, comes in and talks to you. Talk about his influence on you and what it meant to you and what it means to you today.
Man. So first, let's go back to the Gibson home run.
Okay.
One of my
I
favorite
knew we'd
things,
go baseball. Thank you. Yeah.
one of my favorite things about those calls, whether Scully or Buck, is and I challenge your listeners, watch it later on, man. If you don't believe me, watch. Uh, as the ball, this is the greatest comeback in Dodgers history, man.
Yeah.
Well, one of many, but it's up there. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And right as the ball is clearing the fence, and you hear Jack Buck's voice elevating, saying, "I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw."
Yeah.
It's an incredible call. But you see taillights kick on in the stadium parking lot
Yeah.
leaving. And it is symbolic, man. If you aren't careful in life, you give up before the moment's even at hand.
Mm.
Some fan who overpaid for some ticket leaves early because we're losing and we're going to lose the series to those guys. So he gets in the car early to beat traffic. And
Yeah.
now Jack Buck is the one telling him what's happening on the radio.
Right.
He's listening rather than being. And so, yeah, we'll talk about baseball in a moment, but I think within sports, there's something about life. Don't miss the moment, man. Don't get mad that that you think it's going to go one way when God hasn't written the ending quite yet.
Mm.
So hang on for a little bit longer because it doesn't end like this.
Oh,
That's,
love that.
that's
Man,
one thing, man.
yeah.
This isn't on the script for today, but as I think about that Jack Buck call, I think about those taillights. So that's number one. Secondly, for the St. Louis community, uh, go crazy, folks.
Yeah.
Go crazy. It's a home
Telling the
run.
fans, it's okay. This is big, and I recognize it's big, and you should too.
Yeah, that radio voice is what I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
So this is before we went down to Busch Stadium. This is before the games were on television or the internet. It was the radio. And so I grew up cheering when that voice came into my darkness in my bedroom.
Yeah.
When they played out in LA, man, it's 9 o'clock by the time it flips on.
Yep.
So I'm in bed listening to that broadcast, meaning I'm in darkness, which brings us then forward to when I'm burned. I'm 9 years old.
You're used to hearing that voice in darkness.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
It sounds like, dude, are you trying to set the script for the film? No, this is the script of life.
Yeah.
So I'm 9 years old. I'm burned on 100% of my body. My eyes have been swollen shut. My lungs have been burned terribly. So there's a trach now, like Vader, squeezing
Mm.
oxygen in and out of my lungs. But I could pray, I could dream, I could hope, and I could listen. And that evening, the door opens up. This is January 17th. I hear footsteps. It's amazing how your senses elevate when some are taken away from you. So
Right
I hear
here.
the door open up, footsteps, a chair, and then the voice of Jack Buck, not broadcasting a Gibson home run or a Smith home run, but this time he says to me, "Kid, wake up.
Mm.
You are going to live. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark will make it all worthwhile. Keep fighting. See you soon."
Hmm.
And then the man walks out and he leaves, 8 seconds? He left me after an 8-second visit, radically changed. He did not take away the agony. He did not take away, separation from my normal life. He did not take away some uncertainty for what tomorrow might have in store. But that one visit gave me conviction to fight forward. I'm not trying to overly sell this.
Right.
But
No.
when your hero comes into your life one time and tells you that, you believe him.
John O'Leary Day. When did it? So January 17th, he comes into your hospital bed room, your hospital room, spends 8 seconds. Fast forward, when did John O'Leary Day take place?
Yeah, I mean, it took place after 5.5 months of his visits. So this isn't a dating app where he came in one time and swiped left or right.
Exactly.
This is a man who showed up again and again and again until March when he was sent out of town for spring training. At that point, he would send injured baseball players like Andy Van Sken. Ozzie Smith was hurt during March.
Wow.
This will blow away the people in LA. We used to have a football team here.
Yeah.
No, not that one, the Cardinals, man.
That's
So
right.
we had the
Yep.
Phoenix Cardinals.
That's right.
that team would come and visit. Their coach, a guy named Gene Stallings, had a son with special needs named John Mark. He would bring his son up to encourage and visit. The St. Louis Blues would visit. Billy Graham and Pope John Paul II and Ronald Reagan all wrote letters praying for this little boy because one guy cared.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just he visited and then on August 26th, we had the party. It was he cared and he showed up and he came back and he brought friends and he washed and he repeated and he loved me enough that at some point I said, why are you doing this for me? What's different about you? Just like your pastor challenged you.
Yeah.
So he changed my life through his love and he changed other people's lives by challenging them to love. We had John O'Leary Day on August 26th, introduced me to all the ball players.
Mm.
And then we went upstairs, we broadcast the ball game. It's any child's dream. And then he learns that night I can't hold anything with my hands and he just keeps loving me for it. So I don't know if you want to tell that story or.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about signing baseballs?
Right.
Let's do it.
Well, that night I'm in a wheelchair. Today I'm capable. I can do everything physically. I worked a construction job for 11 years and
Wow.
in high school worked as a farmhand for 3 summers. So physical labor is no longer hard for me. But back then it was impossible. It was impossible. It never would have happened. And he sees that night that I'm giving up, maybe not emotionally, but physically. Like I'm kind of letting go of that little light. And he sends me a baseball the following day signed by Ozzie Smith. And the ball below it included a note that said, kid, if you want a second baseball, write a thank you letter to the man who signed the first.
Hmm.
And so now this fingerless child with a therapist on the left side and a mother on the right has his little hands pushed together. They break through scar tissue. We, listen to the pronoun, wrote the note. We mailed it off. And then 2 days later, I got a second baseball
Hmm.
with a note that read, kid, if you want a third, kid, if you want a fourth, if you want a fifth. And to make sure you don't run out of runway today, I received 60 baseballs that summer from one guy who reached down to a child, not teaching him how to write, but how to live. And so when you let off the broadcast with, once expected to die, now teaching others how to truly live. If that's true, it's because the reflection of those who taught it to me. And Jack is one mighty reflection.
Yeah, definitely. What does that word impact mean to you? When you think of making an impact, where does your mind go?
Man, always to others. I think the world is teaching us like follow your purpose and your passion. You figure out where your skill set is and you just put it to work. And I guess, listen, as a farmhand, you're talking to a guy who has no sweat glands from his neck to his toes.
Hmm.
All right. So like, I'm not baked out to be a farmhand.
Right.
But I did it well because I served the guys I was working with. I baled hay like nobody's business, man. Because if they're going to pick up one, I'm going to pick up 2 for them. Afterwards, I became a carpenter for 11 years. That's not my skill set or my unique talent. Like all the stuff that we're like, find the Enneagram and put that stuff to work. And I don't know, man. Every single misstep along the way has somehow worked for me because none of them have been for me. Not farming, not carpentry, not chaplaincy, and not 21 years of speaking. Not the books, not the podcast, not the movie, none of it. And so when I think about impact, it's recognizing that you are here for a very limited period of time to discover how you can be used in the lives of others for good. That's it.
Yeah. What breaks your heart?
Lots, but like last week I spoke at a burn camp. So I try to sneak out of my day job from time to time and just love the broken. And that's all of us. But when you're a little kid, fire doesn't affect. I'm the son of a upper middle class mom and dad. Just a blessed family, man. 5 kids, couple dogs, great life.
Hmm.
And then I came home to a wonderful life and 4 grandparents and healthy community and great neighbors. And for me to fail would have been me swinging and missing. Like I had everything going for me. It was hard, but we had it all. We were moving downhill. And then you come into a camp for kids and many people get burned. It's a space heater that turns over it's a experiments in the basement with a sibling that's trying to create meth that goes awry. It's an accident on their farm.
Yeah.
It's a space heater that just got too old. It blew up, or it's a can of, they're cooking something in the oven and it gets pulled over on top of this child. And so it's just, these kids have so many challenges and then they will return to them. And so when I think of things that break my heart, that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
The war right now in the Middle East is breaking my heart. Uh, People at 1.4 million Americans last year attempted suicide.
Yeah.
Hopelessness is breaking my heart. And the fact that people don't recognize that they're not here by accident is breaking my heart. I think if we recognize that there is a God out there who loved you and wonderfully made you for something big, bigger than your mistakes, bigger than your sins, bigger than that mess up last summer, bigger than that addiction you're surrendering to, like bigger than all that garbage. If you recognize that the author of life breathed life into your lungs and
Mm.
loves you, that will not make today's struggles easy, but it will give you strength to bear them.
Yeah. I often ask how people go through life without some sort of faith, with all those things you just mentioned, the sickness and the war and the, mental health issues and disasters and floods in Texas and bombs and everything else. To, like you said, to have the faith that you and I share doesn't make it easier, doesn't make it go away. It just equips me personally to deal with it a little bit better and to
Mm.
see the bigger picture of it, I think, and to learn from it. As a child, when you first started going into the community, into school, terrified, no doubt, of how people were going to react to you, how did you overcome that fear? Your parents, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm sure from the little bit Stephanie has shared with me about your story before you and I connected, certainly the love and the support of your siblings and your parents was huge, and of your community and of your church. But how did you dig down deep inside yourself to get the courage to face what had to have been horrible?
I mean, there's so many answers to your wonderful question. The one is on this wall behind me is my family. And you'll see my wife and kids and parents, grandparents. There's also on the far end of the wall a wedding picture. And I noticed I'm from a big family of girls, and my wife is
Mm.
too. So like we've all these girls, we had to match them with guys on the other side, man. And of the 8 men I had to invite in, 6 of them went to grade school with me. So that either means O'Leary struggled making friends in middle school, high school, college, and
Mm.
beyond, or something happened that galvanized that community together when they were young. And you look at every great generation before the present one, man, it's almost like everybody was brought together through the trauma. It's
Yeah.
like actually what brought the country together, not divided it right now. Like COVID divides it. You wear a mask or you don't. That separates us more. You get the vaccine or you don't. You vote left or right. And it's all about separating and dividing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But in every previous generation that had a great opponent, always external, by the way, uh, it was what brought them together. So this little class in fourth grade was united by this external force, this fire that destroyed the O'Leary home, that caused them all kinds of struggle, but that ultimately brought this family together as one. So that's one thing that helped quite a bit. But before I could see those kids, I had to face the fears of going back to school. And so I'll briefly share this. My mom and dad are both heroes. And if you see the film, you'll know why. But a part that did not make it in the film, and maybe it should have, is the conversation John and Dad had before I went back to school.
Mm.
So I'm now 10. I'm still in a wheelchair. I'm still a victim. I'm struggling. I keep asking the question, why me? But not from a perspective of faithfulness, uh, but like from a perspective of arms crossed, looking down, making excuses. Why me? And finally, my dad, when I keep saying, Dad, like, why me? He finally stands up. This is the night before I go back to school. He shuts the door, comes back into my room, looks at me in the eyes, kneels, grabs my thighs. Now he's staring at me, an
Mm.
old Army vet. And he says to me, John, dang it. And he used a different word. John, dang it. Why not you?
Mm.
This terrible thing has happened. And if you want to be a victim to it for the rest of your life, have at it. No one will ever blame you. You've been through the worst and you survived it. You're still brave. And then he said, or you can be a victor. And every room we roll you into, or maybe one day you walk into, people will look up in awe at who you become and all you've overcome. And then my sweet dad said to me, victim or victor, John, your choice.
Wow.
And then this man leans forward. He kisses me on the forehead. He stands, he walks out. And this 10-year-old boy who's got to figure out how do I get out of this wheelchair and into bed is left wrestling with which way do you want to go? And brother, like that was a conversation 37 years ago, uh, 2 weeks ago. And I wrote about this in a newsletter coming out next week. So this will validate like what I'm saying here. I was in a drive-through when I stuck out my hand. I'm missing fingers, but I have just enough like nubs, I guess, to hold on to a credit card.
Sure.
This woman looked at my hand, looked at my face, looked back at my hands and said, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?"
Oh man.
So here I am, married, kids, great life, great job, books. The film's coming. Like life is great. I am letting this woman define me momentarily. I there's no words exchanged. Eventually, as she's just staring at me, I say to her, "Oh, I get that all the time. I'm ordering this for the kids at home. I'm not eating 5 ice creams by myself." Try to make a joke out
Right.
of it.
Yeah, you're thinking she's talking about the ice cream. You want her to think you think that.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I know what she's talking about. And I don't, and you're the first person I've ever shared this with out loud, but I didn't tell my wife about that. I didn't tell my kids. I put on a smile when I came in through the back door after I tucked them in and prayed with them and got in bed with wife. And she falls asleep. I get back out of bed and I wrestle with anger,
Hmm.
not because of what she said, but because I know on my dark day she's right. Like there is something massively wrong with me. I know that. I've seen my reflection. My fingers are missing. I can't throw a baseball overhand anymore. It's hard to hold a pen. So when you're wrestling with this, you can go ahead and just surrender into it and recognize she's right. She gets to define you. The world gets to define you. Or as my dad alluded to 37 years earlier, oh, John, turn the other cheek, brother.
Yeah.
Love her anyway. Give her a tip, in fact.
Yeah.
And don't let that define you, victim or victor. And so the reason I shared that with you right now is because I don't want your audience to think, thank heavens, John has it figured out. If you were with me 2 weeks ago, after I got out of bed again and walked the halls angrily in my house, you would recognize, this boy hasn't figured out anything. Why are we wasting our time on this podcast? I haven't, but I'm willing to wrestle. And I think we worship a God who's big enough to wrestle back and ultimately win. But you've got to pursue being a victor, not a victim.
Yeah. And it goes back to the earlier conversation. It doesn't make it easy. It just equips us to deal with it a little bit differently. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the vulnerability and for the heart and the trust to share that. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me when someone feels like they can share something that's hard.
Totally.
Because like you said, somebody listening today, and in this case, it might just be me, and I know it's going to be more than that, are going to realize that the hard that we're going through may not be, yeah, it's hard. I mean, I've not faced what you faced, but at the same time, they always say that if you pushed all your problems out to the table and everybody around the table saw the problems, they'd probably just grab theirs and bring them back
Right.
because it's what we know how to deal with. You know how to deal with this. I wouldn't have known, what to say in a moment like that. So,
Well, Irish sarcasm usually carries the day, man. So
yeah, sarcasm helps.
it got us through repeated droughts and famine in Ireland and carried us into America and beyond. So a little humor and a little faith and a little grace goes a long way so that you can recognize that this too shall pass. My mom and dad used to have a sign on their fridge. And this was when my dad, Army vet, business owner, family run business, successful top line revenue, bottom line profitability, church on Sundays, strong marriage, healthy kids. This too shall pass hung on our fridge to remind us don't blink. Then we had a fire. We rebuilt. Then dad got Parkinson's, slowly lost everything, lost the job, lost the company, lost the wealth, had a second house fire, lost that sign and everything else in that fire. But those words carried us through both the good seasons and the negative ones, like this too shall pass. And so for me, when I stumble into the day, whether I feel like I'm on top of the world or buried under the weight of it, I try to just hold on to that. Like no matter what's going on, it's just mist.
Yeah.
It's just Ecclesiastes, man. It's just mist.
Yeah.
And so then seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with God. Like just keep moving forward and have a little bit of faith.
Yeah, every situation is gonna pass. This too shall pass. Whether it's a really bad thing or a really good thing, you're gonna be on to the next. There's a learning experience coming. We talk sports. One of my favorite sports analogies or stories is Phil Jackson, and it's from when he coached the Chicago Bulls, not just the Lakers, but the year they went 72-10. He said that his favorite practices were the days after the 10 losses because that's when the team was teachable. What do you teach Jordan and Pippen and the rest of the guys after 72 wins? It's those 10 losses. We learn more in our lives when we're going through tough times. Doesn't mean someone who's been through tragedy has learned more than someone who hasn't, but there's certainly more opportunities to learn for sure.
Good. That's awesome.
When you were approached about a movie, well, first going back 2006, your parents write a book, Overwhelming Odds. What was your thought as, wait, my parents are writing a book about what I've been through? Were you embracing it? Were you a little bit apprehensive? All of the above?
Definitely not embracing it. I thought
Yeah.
they were wasting their time. I used to refer to it as the unauthorized version of my life, this unauthorized biography.
Yeah.
And what sparked them writing it was they were in the front row of a church service, and they see their boy walk onto the altar, missing his fingers, but walk onto the altar. They see behind me my brother Jim, who saved my life.
Yeah.
They see, all these buddies of mine that they knew from grade school on up. They see all these pretty girls walk one by one.
Hmm.
And then they see the doors open up, and this brunette man who is just gorgeous, Hollywood pretty, walks down with Midwest humility and a heart for others. She takes my hand. We say our vows. We have the service. We kiss. We turn, and we walk together down the aisle. And that's when my mom recognized how the story ends.
Wow.
So this prayer that they had always had for their boy. In fact, my mom said, like, we had been praying for you, Beth, for years and years and years. We just didn't know your name. And so that was their prayer, that John would find love, and he did. And so they wrote a book to celebrate all the people who came into their lives to help bring this thing forward. I was not a supporter of that book, though, because I thought it was our private story and kind of a tragic one.
Yeah.
I did not invite Jack Buck to my wedding. Why would
Really?
I? Because I knew if Jack came, people would say, why is he here? I did not invite the doctor who saved my life or the nurse and staff. I did not invite the custodial, the PTs, OTs. I didn't invite any of those guys because I wanted that part of my life to be in the rearview mirror and in the shadows.
Hmm.
And then this book comes to light, and then the Girl Scouts call, and then I stumble into that session, and then another one, and another one. And then through God's hand and providence, this story that I wanted nothing to do with becomes pretty significant.
Yeah. So now your approach to make this movie Soul on Fire, talk about that process of the initial conversations, your response, and how it got to where it is today, coming out in October as a major motion picture in theaters everywhere.
Well, I was in Vegas at the MGM. So the MGM, I think there were 28,000 people there total. And it ended with me playing the piano.
Hmm.
So a line of folks come out that day. And by the dude, just to put it in, dude's got no fingers, man.
Right?
Yet,
I'm on the dudes playing the piano here. Yeah.
right. So we played Coldplay, and then we played Amazing Grace. And then I walk into the back area and we do a book signing. And it's people saying, it's nothing like your story, bud. Nothing like your story, bud. So I'm just hugging and loving on all these people. And then one lady named Linda comes up and says, John, I've never heard anything like that. Have you ever thought about turning that into a film? So I said, no, I've never thought about that. She says, would you mind if I tried?
Hmm.
And years ago, I learned that the response of servant in life is yes. Even if you don't feel equipped to do it, the answer is yes. So I said, yeah, ma'am, if you want to try, you can try.
Hmm.
So she tried. She did a little bit of seed fundraising. They created a script with the help of a guy named Greg Poirier, who's written 100 screenplays, a director named Sean McNamara, who did Soul Surfer and Spare Parts and The Cutting Edge and all these, Reagan last summer. Like, Sean's a great director, but he's a better man. So he gets assigned, and like, I don't trust Hollywood, man. No offense to the Southern California folks. I just don't know anything about it. So I flew out to meet Sean, and I met him over coffee, and I said, Sean, why would you sign up for this project? And this big 6'4" guy, burly man, just starts crying, talking about why he does what he does. And he wasn't talking about Oscars or wealth. He was talking about society's brokenness and the need to remind them that there's reason for hope. So I said, dude, I don't know what kind of movie you're going to make with me, man, but we're going to do this together. Like, look, I'm in now. I'm in. And so I never saw this. It was never on my radar, but
Right.
yes, led to another. And now it's rolling out, as you said, theaters around the world.
Can't wait. You've got William H. Macy playing Jack Buck, Stephanie, as we talked about, playing your mom. I'm sure you were on set for a good portion of the filming. What takeaways do you have from that process?
Oh, so first of all, as we start in front of the camera, that our actors who I always wondered, like, what are these people actually like? When the glitz isn't in front of them. In our case, they were humble, like your guest Stephanie Shostak. They were faithful. They were incredibly kind and generous. They fought to pick up tabs. Every one of them came over to my house for dinner a couple times. Every one of them invited me out to their homes. William H. Macy in Aspen and John Corbett in Santa Barbara, like fancy places, man. But once you get there, Bill doesn't have shoes on. He makes my son tea. Bo Derek, who's married to John Corbett's making my kids lemonade. Like
Huh.
they're just good people.
Yeah.
So I love the fact of who said yes to our project. The film they made is life-giving, and it's true. Right now, as you and I record this, the number one movie in the country is Superman.
Hmm.
And man, I like Clark Kent,
Yeah.
and I like dudes in blue tights and red underpants. I think they're very attractive. Why not? But at the end of the day, do we not have enough examples of actual heroes around us?
Right.
Like, there are not enough of them. And so in this film, it is ultimately a massive celebration of heroes in life. And those heroes look like siblings and parents. Stephanie Shostak's mom. They look like nurses and firefighters. They look like Jack Buck, a broadcaster who just serves. And so it is an ultimate celebration of true heroes who do little things faithfully with love in order to not only breathe life into a child, but to walk with that kid until he sees dignity in his own reflection. So it's not just a fire story. It's really like a love story. And
Yeah.
it plays over three different time periods in John's life. And my favorite scene, looking back on it, is it's near the end of the film. We've already talked about the wedding, so it turns out this broken guy does get married.
Hmm.
But this show, as the camera goes to the altar and looks down at the couple getting married, so John and Beth, and then it pans to the mom and dad who've been through so much. And my dad at that point in the movie has Parkinson's disease, and he's shaking a little bit, and he's struggling a little bit. But if you look behind that, you see an old guy who looks like a grandpa and an old woman who looks like a grandmother. So the old grandmother is my real mom. And
Mm.
so she's standing up with this beautiful smile on her face. I'm going to cry now, dude.
Yeah.
And then the old broken down dude who has not stood in 10 years. When the director said action and everyone stands, my sweet dad, God bless him, pulls himself up by that pew and he's standing.
Ah.
So when you see the film, you're going to see in the church where John got married in real life 21 years ago, the dress that the girl is wearing in the movie is the one my wife wore in real life.
Mm.
All the people gathered behind the actors are the people who were there with us. And in the second row, playing grandma and grandpa are John's real mom and dad. And it's the final time my dad ever stood up. Uh, my dad saw, you read the newsletter today, my dad saw that movie. And one of the last sentences he ever shared with me, because he was nonverbal at the end of his life, one of the last sentences he ever said to me when we watched the film together, I said to him as I'm holding his hand, Dad, what do you think, man? What do you think about our movie? And this sweet guy says, what a gift.
Yeah.
A gift. And so, listen, you want to go to Superman? Listen, Hollywood's a democracy. You want to go to Superman? They'll make more Supermans.
Yeah.
Superman 37 is coming out next fall.
No doubt.
But if you want to tell Hollywood, we want more faithful stories told beautifully, celebrating real love, man, that's what we want. Well, tell them. Tell them. And I think it's time to tell them that that's what we want. That's what we demand from now on. A different sense and sensibility of what media could be used for and how life could be used.
Yeah, we don't need more superheroes. We need more real heroes, more true heroes. I'm not a big fan of those superhero movies because, my kids tell me I don't have an imagination. And okay, if that's the case, so be it. I'd much rather watch a movie with a real hero and not even a hero. I mean, just real stories. And I
Yes.
love your story. I mean, your story is unique. Your story is unlike any other that I've heard. I've heard other, from tragedy to triumph stories, and I share a lot of those on this podcast. But I appreciate you just sharing your heart with me, man. Just the humility and the love that you radiate. And when you talk about your parents and your mom and your dad and your siblings and your kids and Jack Buck and the Cardinals and all the things we've talked about, how you just light up. And it's just so I just went to the National Speaker Association conference last week. I've done a lot of speaking, but not a lot professionally, and certainly not on stages like you're used to. But one of my favorite things when I do get a chance to get up and speak is seeing that person in the audience, whether it's, a few hundred or a few dozen,
Right.
who's resisting the message and watching them transition from resisting to embracing. Are there any stories, whether it's speaking or one-on-one at a drive-through or in a school or anything, as we wrap up? A couple last questions for you, but this one is, have you watched people transition in how they see you?
Mm. Yes, and I love you. I love the way you set up that question. Like you, I love when you see arms uncross,
Yeah.
and I love when you see frowns turn upside down, and I love when you see despair renewed into hope. So I love watching. People don't recognize that you and I are not robots on a screen looking out. Like this is a conversation. You may not be talking much, but you and I are having a conversation. So I love the conversation they have back with me, in particular when they come kicking and screaming into it
Mm.
and leave skipping out of that room. So I love that. From a one-to-one, it's actually on my way to a speech. I was in Atlanta on my way to kind of upper Wisconsin one time, and I barely caught the flight. And so they actually opened the door back up for me. So I walk on, and this big burly man is in the seat. That's the one row, and then the two seats, one and two, one of those little baby planes.
Yeah.
So I sit down next to this mountain of a man, and I say, "Brother, I bet you were hoping somebody would sit down next to you tonight." And then he says back to me, "Actually, I was hoping like heck nobody would sit here."
Mm.
And so that was that. So I just said, "Okay, well, I hope it's a good flight for both of us,
Yeah.
brother."
Yeah. Right.
Then I just, they tell you to turn off the lights and go to bed, but when I'm away from family, I just work. So I'm working and I'm typing and I'm writing newsletters and I'm returning emails and all this with no fingers. And finally, this big bear of a man says to me, "Dude, all right, fine, dude, I got to ask you, what the heck do you do for a living?" So I tell him, and then he's like, "Well, how did that happen?" And we spend this whole evening flight, late night, from Atlanta, Georgia to Appleton, Wisconsin,
Mm.
talking about life. So at the end of it, I'm like, "Brother, you ever need a thing, you call me." So his name is Jerry Price. You can validate this one later on Jerry Price. 2 weeks later, I get an email from Jerry Price saying there was a suicide in the community and he wants to pay for me to come up and speak to the school. So I come up and speak to the school and then come back and then speak to his business. And I do life with this man. Like he's still a bear. He's still
Mm.
kind of a cynic. But years ago, I wrote a book by a Southern California boy named John MacArthur called 12 Ordinary Men. And it was ultimately the story of the people that Jesus chose to build the kingdom
Mm.
and how just average at best they were. And on this flight from Atlanta to Appleton were two ordinary men doing work, getting through the day, falling in love with one another, and work and life and faith, who then feel the call to serve in the community. And so I love that story of this guy who just he wanted nothing to do with me. But when you see light and life on such display, eventually the shadows give way. Dude, like when you are
Yeah.
speaking and someone has zero interest in you,
Right.
as you come closer with that message of hope, something's got to give, dude.
Yeah.
And they may run out of the room, but something will give. And sometimes that's with the microphone. More often than not, though, it's in a drive-through. It's when you're holding the door open. It's when you're on a highway waving someone in. It's the little stuff that just shines a little bit of light in someone else's world.
Yeah. I mean, my little thing, I have pretty bad varicose veins in my legs. Okay. Years of being overweight and just a variety of other reasons. Um, when I wear shorts in public and I see little kids looking at me, I have not been through what you've been through, but a tiny little sliver, and I've never shared that on a podcast before. Why do I share about that with anybody? But I know a tiny little sliver of what it's like to feel somebody's judgment, even when they're not saying anything.
Yeah.
Been overweight most of my life. That too. Um, I just admire how you've taken that, and you know that there's still more ahead of you. There's going to be people tomorrow that are going to look at you funny, but you're equipped for it. And, I'm sure there are shocking things that people are going to say in the future that you haven't heard. And, you're going to storm through the halls of your house angry like you did a couple weeks ago.
Amen.
But I love that you almost approach it from, I think you do approach it from it's a them issue, not a you issue.
That is the way to approach it.
Yeah.
And I don't. But when I'm on, I do. And when you're on, you do.
Yeah.
And when we are doing our jobs, listeners and viewers, like, well, it's not your issue, it's theirs.
Yeah.
Your value is intrinsic. It's not about the trophy. It's not about the status, the wealth. All that stuff is fading and fleeting and ultimately garbage. It's the intrinsic value you have and how you can elevate the lives of others by casting that beautiful light into their world.
Hmm. So as I look over your shoulder for those that are watching on YouTube, when you watch this, I see at least 20 pictures, photographs on your wall. Turn and look at one, the first one your eyes are drawn to, and tell us about it.
Well, unfortunately, man, you caught me looking at a Dublin bar. Uh, I was
All
speaking at
right. Well, there's a story. Wouldn't be on your wall if there wasn't.
one of the rare things of speaking is somehow you get paid to go all around the country or city or the world. And so I had an event in Barcelona and then in Ireland and brought the kids and my wife with me. And so the picture I first saw was of Henry, who is my mischievous, awesome little boy,
Hmm.
who in that picture, I'm going to have a pint of Guinness. And that little boy is right next to me on my lap, just kind of savoring that moment with me. He's probably 7 in that
Hmm.
scene, just kind of giving a funny look at the camera. Below that picture, the Familia de Sacramento or something like that in Barcelona, this magnificent church they're building in Barcelona. They've been building it for like 130 years. And I find it so beautiful, regardless again of your faith, to start a project where you will die before they even get it out of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then your son will die before they get it up to head level. And your grandchildren will die before the stained glass goes in. And your great grandchildren may be able to go in one day and worship. And yet at the beginning of it all, you say, and I choose it.
Hmm.
I choose this. And
Yeah.
so here in Barcelona, some part of the city, 130 plus years ago, some horse-drawn carriage brought a guy out, an architect, to say, we're going to put the main stone right here. Let's start digging, boys.
Hmm.
And they're still working on this thing.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that that picture's there. Above that's the London Tower. My wife and I are in front of that together. Above that, and then I'll plot elevation 12,095, Independence Pass, Continental Divide. And there's a picture of a little boy named John O'Leary surrounded by his 5 siblings. And when I was in the hospital, the 2 things that got us through those most difficult days was number one, this vision of John O'Leary Day at the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing was we talked about like, gosh, think about what the mountains might look like. Oh, John, that wind. I bet even in the summertime, I bet there's still snow up there. And so like, my mom and dad would cast this brilliant picture of leaving, going home, hopping in a car, and going out west. And now there's this picture. I've never talked about it, but there it is. 5 siblings. John's in the middle. My little sister's hand is up in the air, like celebrating.
We did it.
We, we did this.
Right.
We did this.
Yeah.
So that wall is my why.
It's your wall of, I won't even
Why I
call
do what I do, man. I
it.
work hard for them, but I also leave work early sometimes for them.
Yeah. I love that. I admire you so much. I just thank you for this time. I feel like in this hour, and I hope our listeners feel it too. I have a new friend, and I just, my heart goes out to you, not from sympathy, but from joy. I feel
Hmm.
the joy that you feel. I feel that you see things in life as happening for a purpose, and that you're an ambassador of joy for people. And I just really admire that about you. What's the best way for someone to reach you, to learn more about the movie, to learn about your books, to hear about or engage with you as a speaker? I'm sure a lot of people listening today are hiring speakers, and hopefully will hear this story and want you to come speak to their audience. What's the best way to get you?
Well, I shared more as a friend, or as you said, an ambassador of joy, which is a great job title.
Hmm.
So, as your ambassador of joy, as your friend, if I can ever serve you, that doesn't mean you and your 900 friends. It means you. Like, so my website with my email on there, my phone number, social media links, all that stuff is johnolearyinspires.com. So, John, John, O'Leary, Oleary, inspires.com. And once you land there, we can do life together. And man, I have some people on my team whose only job it is to help me serve. That doesn't mean like serve clients and sell books. Like, yeah, we do that here. But these folks, their job is to help us multiply love. And so if you're the one right now, you're like, John, I don't know if I'm going to get through this moment. I don't know how I'm going to keep the lights on. I don't know how I'm going to keep this marriage together. I don't know how I'm going to move forward after this thing fell apart. Or I read about someone in the paper and they're struggling. That's my website so that we can love them where they are. My ultimate job, people sometimes ask on podcasts, like, what do you want to be known for? Well, it's not a movie star and it's not a Hollywood glistening, whatever. Like that stuff is so fleeting, man. I want to love people. So my website's johnolearyinspires.com. And if I can serve or love you where you are, don't hesitate reaching out.
Yeah, you've had some guests on your Live Inspired podcast, Brene Brown, Mitch Albom. One of my favorite books is Tuesdays with Maury. I'm blessed that Ken Blanchard, who wrote The 1 Minute Manager, is my Maury. He's my mentor. He's a friend. He's someone I talk to regularly, and I get to, you know, talk to people like him and you and others. Jackie Joyner Kersey, Bob Costas. You've had some legendary people on there, and you've learned a lot. I'm over time here, and I'll let you go. And I know, by the way, today's your birthday. I think I heard somewhere.
Uh,
Is that true?
it's very close to my birthday. I
Okay.
always beg my wife, like, please don't celebrate my birthday. Like my kids' birthdays are all around mine. So I don't like blowing out candles or cutting cake.
You don't want any more fire in your life.
I don't need, well, I'll take it, man. I like barbecue pits and campfires and everything else, but I like celebrating them.
Yeah.
So yes, it's my birthday week. That is true.
Okay. Good
And
enough.
but man, I learned a long time ago, like here's the birthday I celebrate, the day I was burned.
Hmm.
Like that is a day I like to celebrate because when it's our birthday, we really do think it might be about us. Like, weren't we incredible to be born on this day? To really just push out through that birth canal, baby, and here I am.
Yeah. What did I do, right?
Aren't I awesome? So it's
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing, but I love January 17th. We celebrate it at my home and sometimes at my work because you can't conceive for a moment that I did that. So it is this collective celebration of community. And so we blow out candles on my birthday, but we really blow them out on this anniversary date
Hmm.
because unmistakably it's God's hand.
Yeah. That's when you were born.
Amen.
I love that. All right. So I have one last question. And you just spent the last hour sharing it, so I could probably fill in the blank for you, but I ask every one of my guests, I always have and I always will. John O'Leary, what's in your heart?
And just gratitude, love, um, clarity on how broken I am, how desperately I need grace in ways we don't have time to unpack fully on this podcast. And yet, in a world where some people feel victimized and others feel like they're the victors of the story, I can't imagine anybody who feels more fortunate in the story they're currently living than I do. So, in my heart is gratitude, grace, love, and conviction that the best is yet to come.